Okay, in this section we're going to look at carrying out calculations. This is where Excel really comes into its own. We're going to get to understand how formulas are put together and some of the most important functions within Excel. But to start with, let's start with the absolute basics of Excel and formula use. Within each cell in Excel, we effectively have a mini calculator. We've looked at, in previous chapters, at just entering numbers or entering text. So how do we put our cell into calculation mode? How do we tell it that we want it to make a calculation? Well, we need to start our cell with the equals sign. As soon as we start writing our text with an equals sign, Excel will start to expect calculations. It will start to expect us to add, subtract, or divide numbers. Sometimes it will just get a cell reference, so there's no inherent calculation. But ultimately, it is expecting a formula, a variable, not plain text or numbers. Okay, so we've started with the equal sign. Now let's try and do a simple calculation. Within our calculations, we can use simple constants, such as plain numbers. We'll use operators, such as the plus, minus, divide operators. Those are going to be the functions of Excel that tells Excel how to work with the numbers. And finally, we'll look at variables, or in the case of Excel, cell references. Let's work through them one by one. So first of all, as if I was typing into a calculator, I'm going to type in 5 plus 3, for example. And with your calculator, you'd have to hit an equals or tell it to calculate. In our situation, we're just going to hit the Enter key. As I come out of the cell by pressing the Enter key, Excel does the calculation and adds the 5 to the 3. So notice that in our formula bar, we have the actual calculation, and in the cell, when we click out of the cell, we have the result of that formula. So let's look at some more examples. Here we have some simple addition. I have purposely formatted this cell in such a way that it allows me to write equals 5 plus 8 with the apostrophe leading at the front of the cell. As you'll remember from the previous videos, that indicates to Excel that we are writing text and to not try and interpret the information as a number. So for guidance, my 5 plus 8, let's see what's written in my formula bar. And as we'd expect, it is the 5 plus 8 that I'd indicated. But when I click out of this cell, we will see that the calculation is performed and I just get the result. Moving on, there are other ways to calculate in Excel. So far, we have just added two constants together. I've literally typed in a 5 and an 8. But I can also tell Excel to look at a particular cell and use that cell as the value to be calculated. So in this cell down here, as expressed in my guide cell, we can see that there is a formula. The formula says D6 plus D7. So what Excel is doing is using the column and row references to find the cell that I want to add. So it's saying, what is the first cell? Okay, we have D6. D6 in column D and row 6. Aha, there's my number 5. In column D7, column D, and row 7, I find my 8. So now Excel understands I want to add together the value found in D6, which is 5, and the value found in D7, which is 8. I click Enter, and again I get the result of my calculation, not the formula. We can also, using Excel, combine constants and variables, or in this case cell references. So here we have another example. I have added together different cell references, D13, D14, and simply the number 24. We'll still get the answer we expect, which is 37. 37 is, of course, 13 plus 24. Okay, let's move on to subtraction. So again, when talking about subtraction, we have to remember that we are effectively using a mini calculator. So the order that you would type numbers into a calculator is the order you need to type them into Excel. So if I want the answer to 8 minus 5, I have to type in the 8 first, then a minus, then a 5 to tell Excel to take the value 8 and subtract 5 from it. We'll see that's what I've typed into my formula bar. I hit enter and I'll get the result of that formula. As with addition, I can do the same with formula. I can create cell references and tell Excel to subtract one cell from the other cell. And similar to addition, I can also mix variables and constants. In this situation, I'm taking away from 24 cell D31 and D32. As expected, my value is 24 minus 13, which is 11. And that concludes our chapter on addition and subtraction. This may have seemed like a pretty basic lesson, but don't worry, it'll get complicated very quickly.